You are now entering the talk show world of one man that some of you may not know. You may know baseball, you may know engineering, you might even know your own wife, but you don't know Jack and what he thinks about the issues. So sit back and listen to the edgy, entertaining, and educational talk show from beautiful downtown Richmond, Virginia. Now, here's Jack.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for being with us on an overcast Friday morning. I've been telling you for the last several weeks that we invited the Attorney General of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli, to be on the Jack Gravely Show. And I've also told you that of all the statewide leaders that this show has contacted, the office of Ken Cuccinelli always returned their calls. Now, they may not have given me the answer I wanted, but they have always returned the calls. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the President Attorney General of Virginia on the show. He's a Virginia guy. He's been Attorney General Virginia. He's been the Attorney General for the last 3.5 years here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We know him. He's been on the show before. This is his 4th time being on the Jack Gravely Show, and I certainly appreciate it. Mr. Attorney General, good morning to you, and thank you for being on the Jack Gravely Show.
Jack, it's always good to talk to you.
Mr. Attorney General, what are you doing out there today? How are you doing, and what are you doing in reference to your campaign?
Well, today I started the day talking to a bunch of transportation contractors and engineers, and I pulled off here at a scenic overlook where I could keep my cell signal to talk to you and have a good view at the same time.
Could you tell us where you are physically in the state, sir?
I am out west of Stanton, headed towards Stanton. I'm going to be touring the Shenandoah Bottling Company here in a little bit and talk to them about their business and the challenges they're facing as we continue to look for ways to emphasize job creation and economic growth. And one of the important aspects of understanding how to do that best in Virginia is to keep talking to Virginia businesses and see what they've been able to succeed with and see what their major challenges are. And for the ones in the state area of responsibility, to start attacking those challenges.
Mr. Attorney General, what are the 3 or 4 things that you think you must do as a candidate on the Republican ticket to win in November? What are the 3 or 4 things that Ken Cuccinelli must do and show the state of Virginia and its voters?
Well, first of all, I've got to share with everybody my lifetime of commitment to Virginia, whether it's been fighting homelessness, helping the mentally ill, helping our veterans, or fighting sexual assault and juvenile delinquency prevention. I've got a long history of really helping out the communities I live in. I love Virginia, and that's not something I've talked about in previous campaigns, but I think when you're asking people to entrust to you the governorship of Virginia, you got to demonstrate to them that you've already shown with your own life that you care about the people of Virginia, and I think I've got a big leg up on that in this race, and I think it's a legitimate inquiry by the voters of Virginia of me and of my opponent, but I've got to answer for myself. The other thing I've got to do, the other main thing, is to communicate my positive vision for job creation in Virginia. I mean, that is the main concern on voters' minds. It is the main thing we're focusing on in this campaign, and it is the main thing that we will focus on if I'm fortunate enough to win here in a little less than 4 months. And almost no matter where you are in Virginia, the economy is causing either anxiousness, people are worried, or it's downright weak. And we have high unemployment in some parts of Virginia while not in others. But even in the strong economic parts, like Northern Virginia, where I come from, they've got furloughs and the sequester, and they're getting hit with gyrations in the federal budget they've never seen before, and it's really causing a lot of contraction up there. Government contractors are letting people go, and so it's having a real ripple effect through the economy, and that's through the engine of Virginia's economy. And then you go all the way to the other end of the state, maybe south side, where we're trying to bring Virginia manufacturing back, and it's customized manufacturing. It's advanced, so it's smaller, but we need more of them to come back, and one of the major components there is energy, the cost of electricity. And we've been fighting Washington like crazy to try and keep those energy prices reasonable and get a reasonable balance between environmental stewardship and economic opportunity. And that's a big difference in my race with Terry McAuliffe. He's all on board on the war on coal. And I'll tell you what, in Virginia, the war on coal is a war on the poor. If you care about the poor in Virginia, you got to pay very close attention to making sure that we have reasonable access to decently priced electricity, because that's a big component to jobs that those folks can get to move up into the middle class, and of course to make the middle class grow and be more stable.
When you talk about coal, you hit very dear to my heart. My daddy worked in the coal mines for 25 years out in Southwest Virginia.
Oh, I did not know that.
I'm a son of a coal miner.
Every time I'm on with you, Jack.
My uncles worked in the coal mine. In fact, my father was killed in the coal mine. And when you talk about that part of Virginia, Tazewell County, Buchanan, Norton, South Lebanon, Russell County, that's where I hail from. When you talk about coal, Mr. Attorney General, do you have any plans or any ideas that you're able to share with us this morning that would help that region get better roads, better hospitals, better schools, and make sure that they have jobs? Because you take coal away from that part of Virginia, and you're dooming those people to almost to a dead family walking out there.
Yeah, you know, where you live and where I live, our areas are economically diverse. And you know, you take one industry out of Northern Virginia or the Richmond metro area, and of course those people would be hammered by it, but the region would hardly notice because of the extraordinary diversity in the economy. There are other opportunities for people. There are other opportunities. You know, if you and I go down there to Buchanan County and we go to a pizza parlor, you know, like I do, Jack, that's a coal job.
Yeah.
Because if they close those coal mines, that pizza parlor goes away.
Service stations closed. Pizza parlor closed.
And those folks don't have other alternatives. So what we're focusing on is a much better workforce development programs for folks who find themselves in transition in the economy. Right now, workforce development and training is spread all over our state government. I'm going to consolidate it under one person who reports directly to me as governor, so we streamline the whole thing and we connect it up better with the private sector. So what we're training people for lands them in jobs they can pick up right out of the training. And for a place like Southwest Virginia, Southside, that's critically important for the adults down there because those are economies that are in transition and struggling. And like I said, you know, those are some of the poorest regions of Virginia. You know, you've got some of our inner city poor, and then you've got in Southside one version of it, and then Appalachia, where they're pulling coal out of the ground, where you know, where you've come from, you know about what's going on down there. That it is very thin on opportunities, and we want to help get more money back into the private sector so some of those businesses can grow other different jobs down there.
Mr. Attorney General, I know there are issues out there concerning the governor's problems, the investigations, the suits, and all like this, and I know you cannot answer questions on that, so I'm not going to be so dumb to try to make you answer them or ask you those questions, but there are several questions I'd like to ask you. Mr. Attorney General, if and when you are elected governor of Virginia, will you pursue, will you introduce, and or will you support policies to tighten the gift laws that will cover family members and members of the Senate and the House of Delegates so the debacle that Virginians are looking at now with our present governor doesn't happen in the future? What is your position? What would be your position?
Absolutely, Jack. Absolutely.
Now, what does that absolutely include? What does that include?
It includes immediate, and by that I mean within a 10-day disclosure of gifts over $500, and I would also be agreeable to a cap on gifts, even if it were below $500. Just eliminate them, and what that's going to.
Would that include family members also?
Well, the adult family members, absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely think you got to include, you know, spouses are sort of included for some things now, but they really need to be included for everything. And adult family members there as well. And we have a lot to do there to make sure the people of Virginia can see exactly what's going on, see it in a timely fashion, and if we can get the votes to do it, just cut it down by putting caps on this stuff. So I'd be open to all of that. And I would tell you, Jack, I have a long commitment to transparency. You can go back to my days in the Senate before any of this was controversial, and you can see me putting in bills to put the budget online so you can see what your conferees are doing. You remember the whole Phil Hamilton situation 4 years ago. If the systems I wanted were in place, you could have seen the budget that the conferees were working on. I also have put out 8 years of my tax returns. And my opponent last year was calling on Mitt Romney to release his tax returns, but Terry McAuliffe won't release his own. He won't release his own. I've put out 8 years of my taxes. You want transparency, and I'll do it every year as governor if I'm elected. So you won't wonder what's going on. You'll be able to see it every year with Ken Cuccinelli.
And you're saying that Terry McAuliffe, and you're saying your opponent Terry McAuliffe has not been transparent enough in this campaign.
Not only isn't he being transparent in this campaign, he's being hypocritical with what he said in the last campaign just a year ago. And what every Democrat in Virginia was saying. Jim Moran, Congressman Moran, said, if you're going to ask to lead the government, you really should let us see your own finances so we see how you handle that, since you're asking to control the government's finances. Now, then he was talking about the presidential race, but the concept applies just the same to a governor. And I think that a lot of what people are seeing right now requires the restoration of confidence by the government and by those of us running for public office. And the way you restore confidence to the people of Virginia is you put everything on the table. You don't hide anything. Terry McAuliffe saying, well, I've done what the law requires. Put your tax returns out there like I did. 8 years of them. Made them available to the media. And of course, his are somewhat more interesting because he's made a lot of money with his political connections. And I don't think he wants to share that with people. But that's exactly the kind of problem we don't want to see move ahead with the next governor in Virginia.
I want to go back to this issue of ethics laws in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You said you would be supportive, and that's something that you would be very interested in. You are in favor of stronger and broader and more meaningful ethics laws in the Commonwealth of Virginia in reference to the situation that's going on with the governor's office right now. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. And if you look back at my race for AG in 2009, you'll see I proposed an ethics package. I was on this before the rest of the public decided there was a problem with our system. I believed in more transparency. You look at what I proposed in 2009. It would have moved us in this direction, and some of it was achieved. We got the Inspector General, for instance. I'd make him even more independent than he is. I think that more transparency is going to be important, but this is a direction I was going when I ran for Attorney General in 2009. It's the direction I was going when I was in the state Senate, and I'm going to keep going in this direction until the people of Virginia are confident in their trust of governance in Virginia.
Mr. Attorney General, I know your time is short this morning. I want you to stay with us as long as we can, but let me ask you this question here. Mr. Attorney General, will there be any joint appearances with your other two running mates across the state of Virginia as you campaign for governor? Will there be joint appearances?
Well, we as soon as the convention was over, we did a fly around all over Virginia. And, at this stage, in between the beginning, meaning the nomination, and the end, we all tend to do our own scheduling. We do campaign together when we end up in the same place, obviously, but between now and the end, we're all kind of traveling Virginia on our own, and there'll be times when we're in the same place and campaigning at the same time. So there's some of that will happen, but it isn't exactly a scheduled thing necessarily. Okay,
I got to push back on that answer a little bit, Mr. Attorney General. Is that a nice way of you saying that you are not going to be on the same stage with Bishop Jackson concerning some of the remarks that you have been critical of and his position? Is that a nice way of saying that?
Well, actually, the first point I made, Jack, is that all three of us, I want to say we stopped in 10 or 15 stops around Virginia, as a ticket there, May 19th, 20th, and 21st, right after the nomination. So, in 2009, when I ran for AG, I had to introduce myself around Virginia, and both Mark Obenchain, who's running to replace me as Attorney General,
right,
and E.W. Jackson, they have to do that. The people of Virginia haven't met them yet, and they've met me. But I'm at another level now in the governor's race, so we're all on a somewhat different paths in what we have to accomplish right now to get elected and to introduce ourselves to enough people in Virginia to get the votes we need to win. And I want to share my positive vision as I get around Virginia for how to grow jobs and how to grow our middle class and to move people up out of poverty.